Hello everybody. Okay, I'm just joining the many YouTubers, it seems, that are looking at this awful case of the 4 students in Idaho that were killed in their home, well, in the student home, the college. So this is my Facebook group, The Forensic Astrologer, and somebody put up a chart for 1:45, which was the time that everyone was seen sort of from the food truck. So as you'll see here, I thought, I wanted to find out what time this happened. So the way that I go about doing that is doing a few charts and doing a bit of rectification. And so this was a couple of days ago. I thought straight away when I looked at this chart, and I'll bring it up here, that it possibly happened at about 3:45 a.m. And it's interesting now because it's been said that it happened between 3 and 4 a.m. And now I think 3:45 is around about as close as we're going to get, and I think it's a pretty accurate one. So what we're going to do is look at a few different charts. There's no map in this one, this is just astrology, but it does tell us a few things. So let's have a look. So here is 3 charts. We have 1:45 a.m. when they were seen at the food truck. Well, a couple of them were. 2:52 when the last phone call was made to Jack. So if you don't know all the details, 2 of the girls, or one of the girls, but 2 of the girls' phones called a person by the name of Jack several times, 7 times I do believe, but 2:52 a.m. was the last time. And then over here at 3:45 a.m. when I think that everything happened. So we're going to go through them one by one. Oh, actually, I think I do have another one. Okay, and then we have the 911 11:58 a.m. chart as well. So we've actually got 4 charts to have a look at, and all of them show us something very interesting. And you've got to remember to keep the chart pertinent to the question at hand. Okay, so we'll put that one down there. So 1:45, this is when they were last seen. Okay, so it's visually what we can see. It was caught on CCTV. It's a definitive time frame, and let's have a look at what it tells us. So 1:45, just grab my trusty tool. Okay, so zoom in best I can here. As always, the victim or victims is ruled by the ascendant. In this case, it's Virgo at 23 degrees. And the ruler of Virgo is Mercury at 23 degrees of Scorpio. So we've got 23 degrees there and 23 degrees there. So first of all, that matches perfectly with being the victims. Mercury is in the 3rd house, so that's just being in the neighbourhood basically. So it shows me that they're visible. Being in a clump like this together in Scorpio, not necessarily in Scorpio but just together, shows me as well the victims. We've got a male, a female, and 2 other people. So we have a male first. Mercury is always 2, the duality of Mercury, and then a female. But just to take that away, we're looking at Mercury. Okay, the perpetrator, as always, is the 7th house cusp. We have Pisces, and the ruler of Pisces is a dual sign again. We have Neptune here, in the 6th house at 22 degrees, and then Jupiter, both rulers either side of the descendant there. The co-ruler of any victim is the moon, and that's at 16 degrees of Cancer and in the 10th house of the open, out in the open for the world to see. The main thing that I can see in this one, which is seemingly quite obvious, is that these people were out and about doing their thing, and the perpetrator, when you see the ruler of the DC like that, just underneath in the 6th house, that always seems to show somebody watching or waiting or lying in wait. Also, hiding in plain sight seems to pop up with that one. We'll leave that chart there because it is literally just showing us what we know. Well, we don't know about the perpetrator, but we do know that they were out in the open, and this is the rulership, etc. for that. So we'll move on from 145 because it's just telling us exactly what we do know, that the victims were having fun out in the open, and the perpetrator, in my mind, was possibly waiting, watching, ready to do something. And usually when Pisces and Neptune and Jupiter are involved like this, there's drink or drugs or, some mind-altering substance involved as well. Okay, so this is 252. This is a phone call chart, okay? So the last phone call to Jack, made by one of the girls. So first of all, we'll look at the victim area here. And now we have Libra. The ruler of Libra is Venus, a female. And Venus just so happens to be laying right on the 3rd house cusp here, which is phone calls. Okay, so that's showing us that a female is making a phone call. Now the descendant has moved into Aries, and the initial Jupiter and Neptune has gone further down into the 6th house. So that, to me, is showing even more so that this person's now really laying in wait. And I actually think possibly laying in wait in the home, or at least near the home. So the ruler of the descendant of Aries is Mars, and that is up here in the 9th house. Now the 9th house in astrology traditionally rules universities and colleges and places of higher learning, and Mars is an angry little bugger sitting right there waiting. Now what we do see here, even though it's a phone call, we're seeing a relationship between Venus and Mars. So the two rulers, there's a quincunx. Oops. Which goes down to Pluto. Pluto's very destructive. And in the 4th house of the end of the matter. So if we could join those up, and that makes what's called a yod, or a finger of God, or a finger of fate, pointing towards this Mars here. So to me, what this shows is that there's the one female making a phone call in relation to something that's going on at the home, and in regard to the possible perpetrator, and they're all linking up with the degrees. See, 24, 26, 26, and then they actually link up to this Neptune, Jupiter as well. So the other perpetrators in the other chart, or perpetrator in the other chart, I think there's only one personally. So there's this real definitive link between here and up here and over here. So we have all the players involved, even at 252. I really think that at this point the phone calls to Jack were being made because they wanted some help. That's my personal opinion. I think, I don't think you can rule out Jack. I don't think you can rule out anybody. But in the scheme of this chart being a phone call, I think that they were reaching out to Jack to try and say, look, this dude, whom I think they know, mainly because of the relationship between Mars and Venus here, that's the male and the female, that it actually shows it's possibly an ex, or some person that has some perceived idea of being an ex, or being somebody that should be with one of the girls. So that's at 252, that's the phone call. The 8th house cusp, so the 8th house of death, is Taurus, and the ruler of that is Venus. So to me, the phone call's being made because there's fear. There's a fear of something happening, or something going to happen. Now, Uranus is sudden events and incidences. That is in the 8th house as well, and that's making an aspect to Saturn, which is the planet of death, literally, in the 5th house. So to me, this sort of shouts out, they're making a phone call to try and get hold of Jack because some creeper has possibly followed them back from a night out. The 5th house is a night out on the town, and they're in fear for their life. Why 911 wasn't called? Maybe it wasn't escalated to that point yet. They thought that Jack could help at this time. So let's move it forward a little bit. Okay, so 3:45. It's when I really think that something happened, and the police think that something happened between 3 and 4. So, okay, here again we have Libra as the victims. Again, going to Venus as the ruler, firmly in the 2nd house there now. Again, Aries, the ruler is Mars in Gemini, in the 9th house again, so inside the university, inside the college. Then we have the co-ruler of the victims as well, the moon, also inside the college. So this sort of places everybody in the same area. Now, obviously, we still have this Yod going from Mars to Pluto, and then closes off here like this. And now Pluto is even closer to the 4th house cusp, which is the end of the matter. So I think, maybe 350, Pluto would be even closer to this 4th house cusp, and that would show the end of the matter. Now, again, the interesting thing here is that there is a pretty tight and close aspect between Venus and Mars, so the victims and the perpetrator, and also Mercury here at 23. That's a part of this yod as well, along with the Sun. So now we have all the victims in relationship, in relation, astrologically, to Mars in the 9th house. To me, this shows that every one of the victims knew who this person was, and there is especially a close relationship between at least 3 of them. Well, not a close relationship, but at least 3 of them definitely know who this person is. Maybe the Ethan, the male, maybe not. He's a little further out here, the Sun. But I'm thinking that they all knew who it was. So pretty clearly we can see that the perpetrator, Mars here, in Gemini and retrograde, so not thinking straight either. And that is also backed up by the aspect between Mars and Neptune here, which was the first ruler that we looked at. And now that's moved into the 5th house as well. The 5th house is having fun. This person was having fun. It's disgusting, isn't it? But people that do stuff like this, they do seemingly have fun doing it. That's why they do it. So the fact that Aries and Mars is the perpetrator, it gives us an indication as well as what was used to kill them, and that is a sharp weapon. Mars is knives, guns, etc. It was a big knife that was used, a really big knife, which is overkill. So anybody that knows some psychology or forensics or anything will know that using a giant Rambo knife is really, really, they're ready to go over the top, and really, really angry as well. And in Gemini, to me, it seems like angry maybe at 2 people, not just one. So that, angry at one person in particular, which is probably this person that they've had a relationship with in the past, but then also angry at this Mercury here too. Angry at the couple, perhaps. And that could simply be because they came in at the wrong time and saw him, and then he had to eliminate them, or he's seeing some sort of wrongdoing by the couple as well as the girl. There's a few other indicators when you see this type of chart like this. To me, I see, all the standard things that you get when you get a really angry man with a knife that wants to kill somebody. Impotence is a big one. Jealousy and rage. And all this Scorpio can show us that as well. It's all connected to Scorpio here, and Pluto. And Pluto and Scorpio and Mars and all of these planets here like that. It's like a jealous rage and a lust kill. I suppose you would call it that, a lust kill. I mean, this person's killed more than 3 people. They're not a serial killer at this point, but they're definitely a mass murderer. So, to me, this area here shows that mass murder from this person here inside the university inside the college dorm with intention to end their lives. Saturn, which is death itself, has now moved into the 4th house, which is the end of the matter as well. So that's what sort of led me to believe, all the movements of everything led me to believe that, okay, something's happened here at around about 3:45. A death is actually, or a death or all of the deaths have occurred around about this time. So why was 911 called at lunchtime? It could have been just simply because nobody got up and didn't see anything until that time. It is a little bit strange, but, you know, stranger things have happened. But let's have a look at the 911 call and see what the difference is. Okay, so here's the 911 call, and it looks radically different. Now we have 0 degrees of Aquarius on the ascendant. So the ruler of that is Saturn here. And then secondary to that is Uranus. Saturn is sitting in the 1st house, so we have basically what I can see as being dead bodies right there for all to see. Not only that, it's an indication that the police were involved at this point in time. The police are Saturn. The perpetrator at this point now is Leo, so the sun. But let's remember, we're looking at a phone call. So is this, in fact, somebody that was in the university, the college? And remember, this is the 9th house. And now look, they're all sitting in the 9th house. So before they were down here in the 2nd house, now they're all sitting in their dorm. Deceased. The end of the matter, which is the womb, the womb and the tomb, and the end result is at 27 degrees of Taurus. The ruler of Taurus is Venus. So it keeps coming back to this Venus. So to me, it keeps coming back to one of the girls was the primary victim for this, and I think the others were probably collateral damage, actually. The 3rd house cusp is also Venus, and the 3rd house cusp is phone calls. Okay, so, and Venus represents a woman. So if we take away the fact that these are the victims themselves, was it actually a woman that made the phone call? They're making a phone call about an unconscious person, but in reality they're making a phone call about 4 deceased people. So we go to the 8th house cusp, which is ruled by, in Virgo, ruled by Mercury. So we end up going back to the same areas all the time. This time, the perpetrator, if we take him from the other charts, Mars right here, is in the 5th house, but that Yod still is in play, the one I was explaining before, from Pluto, which is now in the 12th house, up here, Venus, and then back here to Pluto again. So there's that pattern pointing to Mars in the 5th house. Now, that to me, when it goes back and lands in the 5th house again, it's somebody that's gone back to having a good old time. Somebody that's possibly gone to a bar or a pub or gone drinking or doing something at lunchtime that day. You know, they've had plenty of time to go home and clean up at this point, and then they're back out in the street just doing whatever. So I think this person is really out in plain sight. I think that they've probably been spoken to. I think the police are probably keeping it a little bit close to their chest, and I think it's even possible that they might know who did it, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, I think probably it's an interesting one at 11:58. It is really late to have called them, but it definitely puts all the victims in that 9th house of colleges and universities. So that in the area we have the relationship between them and the demise of them in the chart. Neptune and Jupiter, which were in play right at the beginning, also still make aspects to this Mars, to up here as well. So Neptune being in the 1st house, that's, you can be seen in the 1st house. So if we take the perpetrator to be Neptune and Jupiter, right near each other there, and Mars, it's a person that's right there, basically near the police. Or talking to the police. Yeah, someone that's out in the open. In the open, talking to police, or have talked to police, are standing around, watching what's going on, and then going off to have a drink or to take drugs or to... Yeah, I don't know, it's weird. It's weird that it's all ending back with this, you know, 5th house energy here, which is just going and partying again after it happened. So I don't know whether this person's come from a bar and gone back to a bar, or works at a bar, possibly. That's a possibility as well. But with all of the other charts showing us this Mars in the 9th house, it could also indicate, and Neptune and Jupiter that were sitting in the 6th house, not only was he sitting there and waiting to do this, but perhaps actually worked within the university or the college itself. So we've got a couple of ideas from an astrological point of view as to who this person is, possibly someone who worked there, or possibly someone who worked at a bar nearby. I don't know if there's university bars. If so, I'd be having a look there. I don't know if any of the jacks, there's so many jacks going around, it's not funny. If any of the jacks worked at a bar or worked at the university. But this person is definitely full of anger, but also not in their right mind. Right in front of everybody to see, and right in front of the police. And again, this shows me that the police do know, or have a sneaking suspicion at least, who they're looking at. And they'll be talking to the friends of the murdered victims and finding out who knows who and who's likely to do what. So, you know, there'll be a lot of DNA and a lot of evidence to get through, but there'll be a lot of people talking about who knows who and telling the police correct information, not just information that's floating around YouTube constantly about Jack 1, Jack 2 and Jack 3. That's why I don't like mentioning names in all of these things, you know. Who knows who's who? We don't know what the police know. But I can show you what the chart says, and that's that there's an angry person that had some type of revenge, perceived anger, and and was just really pissed off and ready to kill. Mainly one of the girls. I actually think that the others, the more I think about it, it seems like that they were just there and they shouldn't have been there, you know. It's a terribly sad case. We'll find out more, but, you know, as per normal, you have to wait and bide your time to find out exactly what's going on. But, yeah, that's my interpretation of what's happened. It's that it's somebody that at least one of the girls knows, or somebody that they all know, and it's jealousy, rage, lust, overkill, and a bunch of other things. Angry because they can't get it up. Sorry, it's crude, I know. But that's what the chart shows. The fact that the ascendant here is at 0 when it's the 911 call means that they're just at the very beginning of this investigation, obviously. I mean, we know that. But they are at the very beginning, and it's like they've got a long way to go. If we look at it time-wise, you know, we could be looking at sort of 18 months, 18 weeks, 18 months, 18 something, probably months before something really definitive will come out of this. So yeah, sorry, I know this looks like a complete mess, but for all those that were interested in the astrology, it does point to somebody that they know and somebody that was waiting, possibly had entry into the house either because they knew the keypad number or they were let in, and then maybe then the phone calls were made to this Jack person because this person started to act funny. You know, not everyone calls the police immediately if somebody they know starts to act funny. So only time will tell. Alright everyone, take care, and I know it's a complex set of charts and there's so many lines, so if you've stayed with me this long, you've done really well. Take care and see you for the next bloody crime. No pun intended at all. That was my Australian annoyance at the amount of crimes that are occurring on a daily basis. I can't even cover them all. My forensic astrology group, luckily I've got so many really, really great astrologers in there because there are cases coming out of my bum. And I can't keep up with them all, that's for sure. Okay, take care everyone. See ya.